Alright, so if you didn't already know, the very first ever Digimon Con took place last night from 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until 2 a.m. in the morning, making for a 6-hour celebration of the franchise. That said, within the con itself, there were several different categories that were covered. We had video game information, card game information, toy information, anime information, etc. But in today's video, we're going to be discussing information specifically pertaining to Digimon Survive, which covers the first half an hour of the con itself. The first hour in total was about games, and the second half an hour was a Q&A session with a lot of interesting questions. So let me know down below if you want me to do a second video talking about that as well. Anyways, for now, let's talk about Digimon Survive and what information we've been given by this 30-minute segment. Just for a little sneak peek, we were given insight into how many Digimon are in the game. They talked about how combat works. They touched on the release date, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And they even discussed story elements and stuff like that. But anyways, let's dive in. Okay, so all the Digimon Survive information was given to us via a Q&A format, so what I'm going to be doing in this video is condensing that and going over the major aspects of the game one by one as they were discussed. I expect this video to be very clear and concise and should act as a good summary rather than having to go watch the whole 30-minute segment. So the first question that was asked was pertaining to Digimon Survive's delay and why we haven't received a lot of information, and in response to this, it was noted that they had to make a change to who was actually developing the game, which caused a lot of uncertainty, making them apprehensive about showing off any additional game footage for updates. I'm guessing this was just in case things went south and the game ended up getting scrapped. They also talked about the release date here, and unfortunately we were not given a clear answer. This leads me to believe that, like I said in my recent Digimon Survive video, the Japanese Amazon website's release date could very well be a placeholder for Q2. We were told to please wait a little longer and that we get a release date very soon, so Q2 definitely sounds right. They also talked a little bit about the story of Survive, which obviously as it pertains to the game itself is pretty important since it's a story-driven game. The direction is very interesting in my opinion. So basically Digimon are like these ethereal beings that can interact with the real world via tech. Since the game's targeted towards adult Digimon fans, there are some very dark tones and even the death of some of your friends, as it was put. It was also noted that if you're a fan of the anime and the more family-friendly Digimon IPs, you may find this game unsettling. In terms of gameplay, the game is going to be a text adventure tactics game, which we already knew, but we have a little more context for each aspect. Firstly, as far as text adventuring versus how much battling is concerned, there's roughly a 70-30 split, so 70% will be text adventures whilst 30% will be tactics. The way the text adventures aspect of the game works is you'll be able to interact with things in the environment from a first-person perspective, and you also have a phone that can sort of see things that you can't see. This will lead to finding hidden items and monsters. You can also choose to interact with your companions and build your intimacy with them, and the greater intimacy you have, the more likely you'll get items from them, and even potentially have them save you during battle. In terms of the tactical combat, the way it works is that you'll be allowed to select 10 of your Digimon prior to starting. Each Digimon has a turn priority based off of its speed, so obviously faster Digimon get to go first. Each Digimon themselves will also depend how far they could travel during their turn phase, whether or not they can change elevation, and stuff like that. When attacking, your enemy's damage will also depend on which side of the Digimon you're facing, different elevations, and of course will all be unique to the attacks themselves. I think that's really cool. Let's say you use an attack from above, that could do more damage based on what the attack is, and I can imagine a ton of strategic elements behind having this type of system in place. The game also has a stamina system by which certain attacks will require stamina, obviously, and you'll be able to evolve certain Digimon during battle at the cost of a large amount of stamina or a constant stamina drain. It wasn't too clear. Obviously, when you evolve your Digimon, it gets significantly stronger, so no big surprise there. Next, they talked about some really interesting aspects to the game, like branching story paths, how long the game will take to complete, how many Digimon were in the game, and more. So the story itself includes 12 linear chapters. However, after chapter 8, you will be able to branch off into one of 3 distinct categories or paths, being morality, harmony, and rage. The game in and of itself is going to take 40 hours to beat when going down one of these paths. However, it was noted that this could vary based on difficulty and whether or not you're fast forwarding through the text. Speaking of difficulty, there are 4 options being difficult, normal, easy, and very easy. They also said that you will need about 80 to 100 hours to pass through all 3 story paths, so quite the wealth of content by the looks of it. The game will also come with New Game Plus, which allows you to carry over your unlocked evolutions, Digimon team, and your items, and even will allow you to go up against these very difficult dungeon areas. Furthermore, there are a total of 113 trainable Digimon, and the capture mechanic, or should I say recruitment mechanic, works similar to something you'd see in Shin Megami Tensei, where you converse with the Digimon and have to convince them to join you. The game will have partial voice acting for some of the main cutscenes and will not have multiplayer, which we already knew. But yeah, guys, so that was the gist of the Digimon Survive information. I know a lot of people said they were disappointed with DigiCon, and the second half of the game segment definitely had a lot of somewhat vague answers, so I definitely get that, but I am happy with the Digimon Survive stuff we have seen, despite not getting a release date. That said, if you do want to stay up to date on news regarding the Digimon games, or you're just a fan of monster taming games in general, definitely subscribe to the channel. I put out new videos every single day. You can also check me out on Twitter, Discord, and Patreon, all links below. Special thanks to my patrons, especially Dark Persona, Steel Case, and Jim Hamilton. And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.